Hey,
Hel-
Robert.
Hello.
Hey, Eric.
So, hey, Mom.
I've got all these smaller questions that wouldn't be enough for an entire YouTube video. But so we'll just make it our potpourri session. How's that sound? Good?
Like potpourri.
Potpourri, is that what he said?
Po- potpourri.
Potpourri. Sacred geometry? What is that all about? There's so many um, signs and ancient, architecture and all sorts of things that are these triangles within triangles within triangles, etc. And there's supposed to be something sacred about that. What is the meaning behind it?
Well, he said, look, Mom, when it, when it comes to the sacred part of it,
Mm-hmm.
he says, it's just another word for divine, right?
Okay. Okay.
So, there are certain templates in the universe that that are the basis of patterns of energy,
Oh.
right? So, so he said that's all about.
So the geometry is a pattern of energy.
Yeah,
It
right.
is
So
it the
it's a
fundamental pattern and it changes depending on what consciousness does to it?
Right. He said, think about snowflakes, right? Every single snowflake is unique, and based on how, the environment that snowflake was created in, it will look differently, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the same fundamental structure of the snowflake, the things that came together to create it are all the same,
I
right?
see.
So he said, in sacred geometry, when you're looking at it, you're using, a certain type of structure, right? Straight lines, moving in certain directions, a
Mm-hmm.
few curves here and there, right? But the way that they all come together um, produces something unique,
Mm.
right? And in certain things that we in the physical world would consider universal, they create certain patterns that we collectively will recognize.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else on sacred geometry?
He said there's more to learn about that shit.
Oh, really? That we don't know or
Yeah,
that I don't know?
yeah. He said,
Tell us something we don't know.
well, he was just telling me something about. He just showed me like a visual of uh, like atomic energy, right? And I don't really know how this plays into it, but it's something with you know. He said I misunderstood what he was trying to say. Well, it's physics related. I don't know, something with physics.
Okay.
With atomic energy, I guess you would have to have a certain amount of physics involved with that.
Oh, yeah.
There's something with that. Oh, okay. So he says that he showed me the atomic part of it because there are certain aspects of what you call sacred geometry, and he uses the air quotes that can become very destructive, like what happened with atomic bombs and things like that.
Mm.
That's the part that humans are don't realize they've already touched on, right? And when they go deeper into different manifestations of sacred geometry, they'll learn more about that. But thank God, he said, we will have evolved enough not to want to shoot our foot off.
Oh. So
Right?
basically, you're saying that that
Uh,
pattern of energy can be manipulated into creating
in anything in
dangerous
the uni-
things.
yeah, anything in the universe can be used constructively or destructively. Right?
Oh, okay.
So he said, but the cool thing about that is once we tap into that, and it won't necessarily be called sacred geometry, right?
Okay.
But that's just one label you can put on something that can be manifested in many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So he said eventually that kind of thing will help humans be able to materialize, dematerialize things,
Oh, cool.
dimensionally travel. He said shit like that, Mom.
Okay. Well, how did so many ancients know about this? I mean, all throughout history, you see evidence of these sacred geometry type symbols. And what did they
He said
think it was?
he said just because they were ancient doesn't mean that they're less intelligent, right?
Mm-hmm.
He said all of that comes from observation. Uh, a great deal of it, and the observation, the things you're inclined to observe, he says, are uh, your instinct or your uh, intuition will lead you to go down that path, right? So all of those things, he says, are just a few souls that were just very observant, paid attention to the natural world, and then started to create a structure with how to explain it, and that just perpetuates throughout history. because all of those individuals who came here to do that and lay the groundwork for that, future generations, from your perspective, build on that.
Okay.
Right? So it's like you leave these breadcrumbs in the past for people in the future to be able to pick up and leave further breadcrumbs for people further on down the line from them.
Well, how did they get the connection through nature?
He said everything in nature, if you start watching it and you really pay attention, you'll notice patterns. There are patterns, right? Mm. He said, I've used this example before, but now that we understand, the atom and things like that, if you look at the atom, right, it looks like a little solar system.
That's true. Right?
And if you look at the solar system, it looks like an atom. Everything is tied together in that way. So that's an example of a pattern that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He said, I talked about snowflakes earlier, right? He said, he said it's got a fractal kind of a look to it, right? Mm-hmm. He says, and if one way you can visualize the universe and the truth of everything is through fractals. Is that the right word,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because I see it like as little, almost crystalline looking.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
That's the way I look at it. But he says that, fractal is just one way of visually manifesting it. Sacred geometry can even be manipulated in such a way that it looks like a fractal.
Okay.
I hope that makes sense because I'm not paying attention to what he's saying.
You just, it's going right through you.
He works differently than any other spirit. Yeah. Some of them I have to listen and then I repeat. Him, it
just flows through you.
He just blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with. But you don't even have to.
I can just tune out.
That's cool.
But then I start wondering, well, is he rambling or am I?
No, I'm getting it. So in the end, basically to sum it up, sacred geometry is a pattern that is kind of a basic pattern that can be manipulated to change realities depending on consciousness and conscious observing.
He said, yeah, Mom, that's right. He said, but it's not the be-all, end-all. There are other things that might look different from sacred geometry, but it's actually the same. And those other things, like string theory, for instance, he says is just a different manifestation of sacred geometry. And yet sacred geometry is a different manifestation of string theory. You see how it's all it looks different, but it's still all ultimately this universal truth.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Now, I've been asked a lot of times, this is another question, about the flat earth theory. Apparently there are people that still think the earth is flat.
Eric said, okay.
Okay, is that all right?
It's the looking game. He's like, okay.
So is it?
He said, not literally, no. He said, but if you think about the universe itself, and the earth itself and all those things, he says it's really about perspective, You're taking it very literal. You're seeing what's just in front of you, and what's in front of you looks like it just goes in a straight line forever. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Universe feels the same way. But then if you have a different perspective on it, so if you're able to, as in the physical body, able to take yourself out of the universe and look at it from a distance, it wouldn't look like a straight line because now you're not in it. Right. So your perspective is different.
So it's round.
He said, again, it's about perspective, right?
Okay.
So if you take yourself out of it, it will look round, right? Okay. It could look round to you, right? Mm-hmm. But then say, hey, what if you went even further than that and you took yourself out of the perspective of the universe and even the perspective you were from, it would look different.
Oh, that's true.
It would look, he said, potentially amorphous, right?
Oh, okay.
Everything is all about perspective, he said.
All right. What about the hollow earth? I've asked you this before, and I remember you said that it's not true, but a lot of people think that the earth is hollow and maybe there's these civilizations within it that we haven't discovered. I don't know. That can't be about perspective, okay?
He said that goes back to what we spoke about a little earlier. The other guy, Paul Walker, was talking about. He said, that's just that's imagination.
Okay. All right.
So he said, if they need to believe that, go ahead. I say I'm all for it.
Okay.
But there really isn't anything there.
No. I can't
Not like what
imagine.
they think.
Yeah.
He showed
Like,
me this visual of tribal looking people, right? And
mhm.
they're dancing around a lava pool.
Oh my God.
That's what he showed me.
That's
He
funny.
said no.
Okay. Let's see. This is one from a blog member. Have you or Eric ever noticed or drawn a parallel to the God particle? It has to do with CERN. You know that? I think that's what is it? Particle accelerator or something?
Yeah.
And manifestation. I think it is like this. We know that thoughts are things with their own energy slash vibration. Higgs boson attracts other particles to the energy most excitable. The God particle, uh, or most defining thoughts and wishes, thus giving it mass. Wait, let me read this again. The Higgs boson attracts other particles to the energy most excitable, the God particle, or most defining, our thoughts and wishes, thus giving it mass as other atomic particles join the developing manifestation, and voila, it manifests in our 3D world. Can
Eric's
you
like this. Eric's
comment on
like, what?
that?
He said, wow.
Surprise!
He said,
So what do you
wow.
think? What do you got to say on that one?
He said, well, first let me put it this way. The universe, the physical universe,
Mm-hmm.
has no smallest component. When you find the smallest, what you think is the smallest component, you will find that that component has even smaller components
Okay.
to infinity,
Mm.
right? Now, he said with current human technology, there is a limit to how small we can go, and we may define that limit as the God particle, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we'll learn later in our down the road that there's even smaller shit than
What?
that.
Wow, that's like what Nassim Haramein says. That
Uh,
things go from infinitely large to infinitely
Infinitely
small.
small. That's Eric said. That's right.
Oh,
They
interesting.
do. There's no smallest or largest component.
So what does this have to do? What does the God particle have to do with manifestation?
He said, "Let me tell you what my definition of the God particle would be.
Okay.
It's all the particles working collectively to create an experience.
Okay.
So you are, interspersed within that, and all of the different parts that are all coming together to give you your consciousness. Because not just one particle gives you your consciousness; it's the collection of all of them together that do it. Just
Okay.
like your body is a collection of cells that all working together, cells which then or atoms which then create cells, which then create tissues, which then create a nervous system and a skeletal system. All that together is what creates your consciousness in the physical body, and that is being powered by this energy that is non-physical, that is what I was mentioning earlier, all those different things coming
Okay.
together, right? So he said earlier, I said, the particles are all working together. He said, but underneath the particles there's this energy that is uniform throughout all things. That's where the
Okay.
consciousness really comes from.
Interesting.
So the manifestation part, he said, I'll tell you manifestation in the physical world. He said I'm a little conflicted about some of the teachings that now I'm becoming a little conflicted about some teachings that say you can just manifest whatever the heck you want,
Mm-hmm.
right? He says at this point in human evolution, people are going to be going around doing that, thinking, oh, I can do this, I can do that, and then it never fucking happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he said there are some times, he said if you think about it, for some people that could seem very I don't want this to sound judgmental or anything, he said, but it can seem very egocentric. You think you're in control of every fucking thing.
Mm-hmm.
He said, but I'm telling you, you came here to live a physical life to learn certain lessons. And so if certain things you try to manifest that are not going to make sure that you learn those things, then they're not going to happen,
Ah, I see.
right?
So it all has to
Heaven,
honor the lessons you're here to learn.
right. He said, so heaven itself is a different story, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a different plane of existence where you still learn lessons, but they're rooted to lessons that are relative to this existence.
Mm.
Right? So, but he says we have a little bit of we're a little bit special because we can do whatever, manifest whatever we want.
Mm-hmm.
Because he said, when you think about it, you don't really need to manifest money here, right? Because you have nothing. All your needs are met here.
Mm.
So,
Nice.
you can go and manifest those things,
Hmm.
but it's just going to seem unfulfilling, right?
Sure.
So over here, anything that gets manifested, we tend to pursue from a place of um, pure emotionality, if that's even a word, right?
Okay.
So it's all about you manifest things, and the lesson that will bring you the kind of emotion that you already hold within yourself. So it helps you to release that emotion, right? And the lesson in that is um, gaining a deeper level of the emotional energy that you are.
Mm, fascinating.
Is it in the mouth?
That is pretty cool. All right. Well, I'm going to do another session on potpourri things. So, because this was fun, it was just a little bit of a
Yeah.
little collection. So, everybody, stay to the end. Watch the title pages, get the information you need, and check out the next video. Bye,
Yeah.
everybody. Bye, Robert. Bye, Eric.
Bye, mom. Said I love you. He's
Love
like, mwah.
you.